Good afternoon. This is Tanisha Laverne Grad with BlackInAmerica.com. Super excited to bring to the platform today Mr. London Brown. America has fallen in love with London. You know, we're starting to see more and more and more and more of you, Mr. London Brown. You killed it. Season 1, Raising Kanan, Power Book 3. How are you feeling this Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, no complaints. You know, everything is everything. So I'm pretty easy going. So I'm good.
You know, Marvin, we've seen you on Ballers. We've seen you on quite a few projects actually, but Uncle Marvin is hitting. He is really hitting. Talk to me a little bit about what resonated with you when you learned you were going to be, working with 50 Cent on, such an epic project. I mean, this is like, part of his big Power Book series.
Right. Initially, when I auditioned, I didn't know I was auditioning for Power at all. I didn't know they're doing any spinoffs because I was seeing like at the time, it's like 2019. I remember seeing like billboards in New York of them saying like season finale type of a thing. So I thought the whole series was done. And then, so when I got the audition, I saw the title said Power, but I just thought maybe it was like a fake title because they do that sometimes to protect the project.
So, yeah.
Right. So after auditions, like 2 months process, I auditioned, and then they told me I had to move to New York. And then from there, even while I was shooting, I didn't know that it was still a spinoff of Power. Because when I got to set, by the time I got there, it was a different title, was Raising Kanan. So I still didn't know what was going on. And then I found out after the fact that it wasn't in fact a spinoff. So just to be a part of it is dope because I wanted to do it. I never watched Power because at the time when Power dropped, Ballers was also out. And I wanted to be a part of Power, but I was very grateful for what I had. So I just didn't even watch the show. I was like, but all the people I hung out with, I mean, my friends supported me, but the street people that I hung out with, they all watched Power. It was Power, Game of Thrones, and then Ballers or whatever. So I was like, man, I wish I could be a part of that project. So I didn't want nothing to do with it. But then it came full circle. So it was a nice full circle moment for me to be able to work on the show I wanted to do. And it's based in 91. I mean, it's vintage. It's a period.
Oh my God. Okay, you killing me because I graduated high school in 91. I graduated high school in 91, London. You killing me. You killing me. Vintage.
No, when it comes to not you. We're talking, first of all, Black people don't age like that anyway. Right now, you could be 108. We wouldn't know. Nobody knows Black people age like wine. You know what I mean? Other cultures age like bananas. It ain't the same. We thing. So the point is that though,
London Brown is in the house, y'all. London Brown is in the house.
This is good. The project is good, but I mean, as far as like the vibe of the 90s is really dope. So I was able to really dig that part of it and everything. So yeah, but to you, wonderful. You look great. So don't. We Black, we age like that.
Bless you. I love the show, because it does bring back a lot of nostalgia for me. Like I said, graduating high school, in 1991, seeing all the wardrobe, listening to some of the sounds, the music, all of it. You guys nailed it. You guys absolutely nailed this. Now, you've had some pretty heavy scenes, some powerful scenes, Power Book 3, Raising Kanan. The scene that you had with your daughter, where you find out, that she's a lesbian and you guys get into this physical altercation. How were you able to decompress, from coming out of that scene?
I really tried to leave work at work because you start bringing that stuff home, then your place, then your home is not peace. So I try to leave that stuff right at work. And it also helps when I change that wardrobe, that's like a shedding of the day or
Okay.
of work. You know what I mean? And I throw back, I go out of these period pieces, and I throw back on, my sweatsuit and my fitted cap, and I'm out of there. But that scene, was definitely emotionally draining, physically draining. Even just leading up to it, I had to do a lot of research as far as, because sometimes TV. Well, shout out to Sasha Penn and the writers and all those guys. They're really good. But sometimes I'll see projects and I could tell they just added, they'll add something very, very out there just to create drama that ain't really grounded to anything. But when I spoke to my friends in, LBGT, they told me to say, yo, man, that's a real reality. And it still is. And it's even more so back in the 90s.
Absolutely.
For a guy like Marvin. It wasn't as liberal, it wasn't just so free, and Marvin is the old school kind of a dude. So, but once my friends told me like it is a real thing and it's not just being over dramatized, that allowed me to at least be able to tap into that. Because at first I had tons of questions. I was like, yo, is Marvin gonna be able to bounce back from this? Like, where's this connected to? But once I realized it is a real thing that some people have to go through with their parents. And so that helped.
You know what I like in that scene too? Pardon me for cutting you off, but I liken that scene to the scene in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. Do you remember the movie Do the Right Thing at all? When when Flipper's girlfriend, he left his wife, to date this white girl, who was from Bensonhurst. And when her family found out she was dating Wesley's character, her father beat her, and it was like, any time is so unfortunate. Too many times. I won't say any time because that's making a sweeping indictment and making a broad brushstroke. But so many times when there's something a parent doesn't understand, especially in that generation, Do the Right Thing came out in the 90s. You guys are thrown back to the 90s. That's how parents responded.
Yeah.
To a lot of things that they didn't understand. They thought they could beat it out of you. And I thought, I thought that scene was very powerful. It was painful, but it was well played.
But thank you. I mean, it was heavy, man. Like, again, for us, and it's always interesting because I run the people on the street who watch the show and online and so forth. So everybody's just like, yo, man, I can't believe he did that, or Marvin did this to his daughter. What was he thinking? Or all this stuff. But people have to realize it wasn't okay with Marvin. Marvin blacked out. And after he blacked out, he broke down. He realized he had messed up. He realized that wasn't right. He went too far. He let his emotions get away. And it was a whole lot for Marvin building up to that point in general. I mean, between his brother almost dying, his sister being done with him, being shot at in accidents. But then also people got to realize too, it wasn't like Marvin did what he did to his daughter, and then he went into the living room to go watch the game. Like, he was messed up behind that.
Yep.
And a lot of layers when it comes to a character like Marvin. I have to do my own work for that, as far as creating the backstory and having reasons on why Marvin is the way he is. But that particular layer of Marvin, I like that because the audience get to see an added layer to Marvin's life played out in front of them. A lot of the other things people don't quite, they kind of find out later through the story why Rock is in control of things or why he may be a little irresponsible. And, some of those things we find out as we go, subliminally. But this one, we all got to see, oh man, Marvin just realized he messed up. And now this whole tragedy took place in front of us. That's something that Marvin's going to always have to be fighting. And we don't even know yet if Marvin ever gets her back or what that's like. So, and I don't want to give too much away, even with the second season that we're shooting, but that's an ongoing thing that Marvin's going to always have to live with. Like so many parents who cross the line, who let their emotions get the best of them, and then deal with that issue. So, and that will affect Jukebox. I'm sure that like
it will. It will. You know, I'm not a parent, but you know, I'm definitely a daughter, and I've had both of my parents cross the line, you know, in that way, and it is a process,
right?
You know, to forgive and to have a healthy relationship, because you never think of, oh, you know what, this is my mother or this is my father, you know, and how could they do something like this to me? You know what I mean? So it becomes a process, and it definitely colors how you move in the world too.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Absolutely. That's why it's so crucial, because, you know, that's why it almost gives me, sometimes I feel a little empathy for folks as adults, as I would study psychology and human behavior and different things. Sometimes we're so quick to just judge and blanket people in one way. But I'm like, when we're dealing with, even with the folks who are in gangs or committing crimes and different things, there's always like a substratum of things that lead up. I think people are so quick to judge the what the actual the symptoms, but they don't understand the problems of what produced these symptoms. And so once we understand, like you said, once we begin to really look at people differently and say, yo, let's figure out why this person's the way. Oh, we realize that their parents or their brother, their uncle, or they grew up like this, they was getting bullied. You know, not that it makes the world better, but at least create some understanding of why people are the way they are, and we don't just dismiss them. So, you know, I totally get it. I hear where you're coming from.
I get it. You know, London, is always great to talk to you because you're so sympathetic and empathetic, you know, which I think, you know, makes you an amazing talent. You know, the last time I spoke with you, we mentioned, you know, James Baldwin being someone you would like to play.
Yeah.
Like, what are the new developments on that? You know, have you been researching Baldwin more? Are you reading his writings more? Because I think I told you in the last interview, there's a book that you should read by Baldwin called The Fire Next Time. Did you get a chance to read that yet?
So actually, what I did was I ordered it, and then I told my friend, I said, yo, man, I got this book, man. He's like, oh, you know what? Can I use it? And
don't give away your Baldwin stuff, London.
Right. I know, but I mean, it's my boy, but I was supposed to get it back, and I flew out to New York, and it's still, so I got to probably just order a whole new thing of stuff and books and study here. But I have been, to your question, I have been just looking at the interviews and just really understanding his angles. And I just like how articulate he is, and just very calm, collected, and just thought out. And so his mannerisms. I'm working a little bit on the physicality and just listening to his perspective on life and where he is with things. So hopefully you know, when that comes around, I'll be able to embody that. So we'll see.
What do you think James Baldwin would say to Marvin and all that Marvin has going on and all that Marvin is experiencing, you know, trying to find his way, you know, as a Black man who's a father in the 90s at the height of drug culture? What do you think, you know, Baldwin would say to Marvin?
I do feel like he would be sympathetic and empathetic as well to Marvin, because I think sometimes people just don't understand. A lot of people don't understand how complex Marvin is, because when you look at Marvin, and these are the kind of, and I'm saying to say that these are the kind of things that I feel Mr. Baldwin these are the layers that he would have pulled back and he would have revealed within Marvin, which is the same thing that I have to do. Almost have to be a psychiatrist and a therapist with a character like this within myself about Marvin. Because when you look at Marvin is, when he's telling Kanan what to do and giving orders, that's his leadership that he gets from Rock. When he's a little charming with the ladies or anything like that, that's a little bit of Lulu. When he's naive and you know, sometimes aloof to different things, that's a little bit of Kanan. When he's dealing with some maternal things, that's some Jukebox. When he's revengeful, that's a little bit of Unique. So Marvin that's the cool thing about playing a character like this, is that he's not just one note, but he is lots of things. So one minute you're cheering for Marvin, one minute you're crying with Marvin, or you're sad, The other one, you're like, man, Marvin, you got to get it together. So with all of these layers, I think James Baldwin would have been able to pull back and really get to Marvin at his core and where his heart is. Because at the end of the day, Marvin isn't a bad person. He's just making some bad choices. And some of the bad choices.
Very bad choices. Marvin nailed a man in a wall.
Right.
Marvin nailed a man in the wall.
But now,
wait a minute, that was another great scene, by the way, too. I got to tell you, I think I watched that scene a few times because I'm like, he's putting his brother in the wall, like he just
in the wall.
Great.
But now, if we look
like
at
you
that,
putting up wallpaper, like it was just very casual.
Casual, because now listen, Marvin, and I meant to tell the writers is I wish Marvin just did that on the strip. That was a regular day. All he knew is that his sister, he didn't know what was going on. He looked at his sister, something was off. His sister said, hey, take care of this. That could have been as simple. She could have said, hey, Marvin, can you take my clothes to the cleaners, pick up Kanan? And that was just a regular day for him. So he wasn't even mad when he did it. The point is that for Marvin put him in the wall. He did what he was supposed to do. The flip of all of that
I'm sorry. London, that scene took me out. That scene.
I know. People all over just like, you put him in the wall and he was having a conversation so casual. But Marvin, that's how loyal Marvin is. Marvin, it's a regular day for Marvin. But now we got to look at the undergird of that and say, well, why was Marvin able to do that emotionless, without any feelings to anything? He just did it. It wasn't even like, it wasn't a struggle. He didn't second question his sister. He wasn't confused. He said, all right, I'll do it. I don't know what's going on, but I'm putting him in the wall. There's a callous over Marvin's heart that we realize. Because even with Lulu every time we see Lulu in the situation sometimes, Lulu's heart is not all the way in this family business. He's always vacillating between if he wants to do it, can he do it, but he has to. Yeah. Marvin don't question nothing. Marvin is ride or die, loyal. That's the softer side of Marvin. He's almost loyal to a fault where he does things like that. Put his nephew on to the game and put that dude in the wall. Marvin got some stuff he got to flush out. You know what I mean?
We all know or have an uncle that has similar qualities and characteristics as Uncle Marvin. Like I have a couple of Uncle Marvins, and all I have to do is say, look, I want, or I need, or can you help me?
They handle it.
And that makes a girl feel good, like moving in this world too, to know that you got, some force behind you. What is next for you, Marvin, coming down the pipeline? Are there any projects that you're working on that you're at liberty to discuss and share with the audience today? Or we're just looking forward to seeing you in the next season of Power Book 2.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the next season. There are a couple of things, and there are meetings happening, conversations happening. One thing I can speak about basically, once we finish shooting, just jumping back into stand-up like full time again. I miss that. It's kind of hard to do that now because the schedules be all over the place and that sort of thing. But as I tiptoe back into stand-up, as my schedule allows, that's going to be the main thing that I'm looking forward to, is getting back in the clubs. And then as far as the other projects, it's just a matter of contractually having the time to work on those, because right now they got us so locked in on this. I got to kind of wait till this is over and then get back out and do the other stuff.
Now tell me something, London. As a comedian, do you have an opinion about the pushback that Dave Chappelle has received for his last Netflix project, where he's speaking his truth, know?
For me, my whole thing is with anything. A big thing that I do on my stories or on my social media, excuse me, I'm always encouraging people to slow down and process whatever that. We have to at least be, in general, we have to at least be mature enough and solid enough to be able to have the conversations about why we disagree or why something is uncomfortable. If we can't even have the conversation, again, we can't even find a place to even respect each other, because it's not even about liking each other. Liking and loving each other, that's emotional. We don't need that. Let's just respect each other on a basic level, which is understanding that, yo, you live on this earth, I live on this earth, we breathe the same air. I'm not gonna, you do what you do over there, I'm gonna do what I do over here, and let you be. But to the special, my thing with that whole with the pushback is simply the reason that I would advocate for anybody, say what you want to say, because I want to say what I want to be able to say. Yeah. Now, we don't have to agree, and I don't have to agree with your views. There are lots of comedians, I'll be like, I don't think, not even so much that I'm offended by the joke. I'm just like, I just didn't think that was funny. But if a comedian that's non-black says something about black people and it's funny, yo, I'm laughing.
I mean, George Carlin, Andrew Dice Clay. I mean, they were notorious for saying all kinds of things in their stand-up.
That's the thing, and of course, but
it was a different time too. It was a different time.
All of that.
So all of that plays a factor. But what we cannot lose is our freedom of speech. What we cannot lose is our freedom to exercise our thoughts and ideas without persecution, which is why I'm not a huge fan of this cancel culture. What are your thoughts about cancel culture?
I just think that because the thing about being sensitive to ideas, I think it goes a lot deeper than the surface, than the surface of someone just saying something that we didn't like. We got to get to a point where I think people have to be more aware of themselves. I talked about this the other day, which are, everyone has triggers or words that, when we hear them, just like a group of women that are walking down the street and some guys across the street call them the B word, and somebody in the group turns around, who you're talking to, that's a trigger. Or someone starts talking about race or whatever your gender is, religion, we have these triggers. The issue isn't having triggers. We all got them. The problem is a lot of people haven't addressed those triggers, haven't figured out why they are. So because when you go to therapy and different things like this, therapy ideally is, from what I understand, is one of those things where it helps you to deal with, it's not to rid the problems, but help you understand the problems and go into, so when you get triggered, you say, okay, this word or this thing bothers me, how am I going to react to these things? Yeah. So I feel like a lot of people are unaware of themselves. So every time someone says something that triggers them, they just stop listening. And okay, I'll give you an example. A guy could be dating a woman, faithful guy, whatever, solid relationship, and he'll say, you know what, hey babe, I was at the airport today, and there was this woman, right? And I helped her. And before he can get to the rest of the story, sometimes a woman will check out, and all it was a man, and it was a woman, and he helped her. And she didn't hear the part where he said, yo, babe, I'm glad I helped her. She was in a wheelchair with no arms, and she needed somebody, and I was there.
Let me shut up.
All of that gets dismissed because of the trigger words. So my point is, because we all got them. It's all good. We all got them. I got them. But now, how do we respond? So going back to with the cancel culture thing, I would go into, I say, yo, hold on. I know there's a lot of different things that we don't like, but before we get mad at the person saying these things or the person provoking these things, let's go back into ourselves and figure out, why are these words so emotionally, why do they charge us the way that they do? When we get to addressing those things, we say, you know what, it really isn't the person over there. The issue I'm having with is the person, my friend or my family member or my best friend who cheated on me with, or get to the core. That way we can at least release the surface energy of being mad at everybody else. Let's go back to self first is what I would suggest.
I love that. I mean, it's a lesson for all of us. I've definitely learned to identify my triggers and move accordingly.
We got to. We all got to. Absolutely.
you know. So again, you know, London Brown, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. You're such a light. You know, I follow you on social media. I've come in on some of your lives, and you're so inspiring and so encouraging, you know. And I just wish you the absolute best. I really wish you the absolute best.
Right.
Is there anything else you want to say to the audience before we wrap this up?
I would just say, man, for anybody, because I get asked all the time, like, what can I do? How do I get it going as far as a dream or whatever? I would just say, man, just do something every day that puts you closer to where you want to be. I think a lot of times people be waiting for the big check or waiting to get fired or the big sign. Yeah. It's something more that's what makes it special, which is the people who are able to move in spite of what it appears. That kind of faith is different. So I would say, please do something every day that puts you closer to where you want to be. And you look up and you be like, yo, I'm in the place.
Sitting here interviewing with me. Interviewing with me. There you go.
And this is it. That's why
oh my God. I just looked up and I'm interviewing with Tanish Laverne Grant, multi-award-winning entertainment journalist, red carpet correspondent, the bald, black, and beautiful one, the unreputable one.
Boom. Right there. And it happens. So thank you for your platform. I appreciate you. So kind, assistant.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Always good to see you. Always great to chat with you. You guys, London Brown, one of my faves, is killing it in Hollywood. You can catch him on Ballers. You can go back. Ballers is still one of my favorite series. I still go back and watch it. And, you know, Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, Uncle Marvin. You want to not like Marvin, but it's hard. You know, it's hard. I love Marvin.
Awesome, man.
I love Marvin.
Feel like that. A lot of people feel like they're like, man, I want to, because they kind of low key. They kind of felt like this with Reggie, where they didn't like Reggie at first, and then he's like, all right, he matured. And like, but I like making the characters layered in this kind of way where you conflicted. You like them, you're like, oh, but
you want to like. You just want to go like, boy, get it together.
Get it together.
That's
what makes them real. We all know somebody that's just like that. We like, man, we want you to do well, man, but man, how long is it going to take you, brother? Get right. So I understand.
Yep. I love it. I love it. You guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. Go to Stars and watch Raising Kanan Power Book 3. If you have not watched it, shame on you. There is some amazing acting, amazing cast. I mean, everybody pulls their weight in Raising Kanan. You know, another series by none other than 50 Cent, who's not playing out here. I know he's one of the internet's greatest trolls, but he's one of Hollywood's biggest power players right now.
Absolutely.
You know, legacy for sure. So again, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Tanish Laverne Grant with BlackInAmerica.com.